Okay, so one really cool way to stand close to the golf ball, where we stand close to the golf ball so our feet and the ball are very close to each other, a very cool way to do that is to match up like somebody like Jim Furyk or somebody like Rory McIlroy. Jim Furyk is the most extreme version. Rory McIlroy would be a very mild version. Now, here's a very important piece before we even talk about that. Make sure if you stand close to the golf ball, you do not compromise your posture or your balance. Make sure if you stand close to the golf ball, you're not standing more up or leaning back towards your heels. If you start compromising your posture by standing up, well, it's going to be very hard for us to move our body without having to bend down during the swing because we're so tall. Or if we start leaning back towards our heels where our pressure's on our heels over here, because we're out of balance, we're not going to want to turn very much from that position. We're going to start leaning closer to the ball to get back in balance, and now we're really tight to the ball and we have nowhere to go. So if you have good posture and balance at address and you simply stand closer, there's a really cool way you can make this work, which is something both Jim Furyk and Rory McIlroy do. Both players stand close. Rory McIlroy is going to look a little bit more like this at address, where he stands relatively close to the golf ball. His hands are very close to his lap. And Jim Furyk has his hands very much in his lap in this direction. Here's how they make it work. What most people are going to do when they stand too close to the golf ball is they're going to start coming over the top and swinging to the left. That way they can make contact with it. Because all things being equal, we stand close, we're going to hit off the heel or we're going to swing over the ball. So by swinging from over the top and wiping left, they have a chance of making decent contact with it. That's one way people will react that I don't like. Another way people will react is people will stand close and then they will start jumping up with their body to try and create space, so that way they have space between their golf ball and their body. And again, they don't hit off the heel or swing over it. They're standing further away from it to create that space. Yet again, a way I don't like. The way Jim Furyk and Rory McIlroy will do it is very cool. They will have a relatively weak grip, so their grips are not particularly strong in this direction. They will have a slightly weaker grip in this direction towards the target. And from there, that helps them get the face a little bit more on the open side. And they need that because what they do to make up the distance from the golf ball is they let their right arm get into something that's called internal rotation and abduction behind them over here. Basically, they let their arm split behind them this way as opposed to getting their arm in front of them, which is what most players try to do. They let their arms split behind them. Well, look at my hands. When my arm splits behind me over here, where do my hands go? They get closer to my body, just like when I was at address. So by letting the arm get more behind my body in this direction, it pulls my hands in closer. That way it can reach the golf ball over here and make it work. Now, here's why the face needed to be more open. This is why those players need to have a little bit of a weaker grip in this direction, because the weaker grip gets the face more open. Watch what happens when I pull my arm back in this direction like they do. Now my face is square. When I pull my arm into internal rotation like this, that hoods the face in this direction. So by having a weaker grip and by standing close to the golf ball, they can pull their arm back, and now the face gets square. And now because the face is square and they're the right distance from the ball in terms of their hands being in and their arm being behind them, now they can just simply focus on rotating into impact in this direction, and that's where they get their arms behind them, their hands are tight, but they get very rotated. And because they have so much rotation, their face is incredibly stable through the ball. They don't need to flip it square. Their arm is already squared it up. All they have to do is just keep their body turning through the golf ball, and they're going to have insane control of their club face because their hands and arms are so passive. They don't need a lot of activity with their hands and arms in order to square up the club face. So again, Jim Furyk's kind of an extreme version of that. Now he has his backswing, which everybody notices, where he goes in different planes, but when he comes down after he shallows out, his arm will get behind him in this direction. His arms will get tight with his arms splitting behind him, like I said, to square up the face and get his arms tight. And now from there, he can just keep his body rotating into impact like this. And he's one of the most rotated players you will ever see because of how close he gets his arms and how much he has to keep his body turning in order to support that. The more we rotate our body, all things being equal, the more the arm wants to split behind us. If I don't turn my body, it's very easy to get my arm in front of me in this direction. The more I turn, because my arm wants to stay across my chest, which means this trail arm wants to stay more behind me naturally, the more I turn, the more I want to get my arm stuck behind me in this direction if I get very exaggerated with it. And again, for those players, that's a wonderful thing, because getting their arms behind them, because they had more of an open face from their weaker grip, and because they needed to make up the distance from the ball, lets them get into perfect impact when they're making solid contact with it, lets them square up their face, and they have incredible face control because their body can stay rotated so much through the shot. Now, the only real difference between Jim Furyk and Rory McIlroy in that context is Rory stands a touch further from the golf ball. He will stand still relatively close, but he'll stand a little bit further, where Jim Furyk is all the way with his hands in his lap. He'll stand a touch further away from it, which means his arm will get behind him, but he at least has enough distance where he can start driving his hands back in front of him through impact in this direction, which is much more powerful. Where Jim Furyk is so close, he can't afford to let his arms punch back in front of him last second. He has to keep his arms behind him the entire time and just keep spinning open with it, which is why he's so rotated open, versus Rory McIlroy is pretty rotated open. So anyway, that's the way they matched up. So if I say that one more time to summarize, number one, they stand very close to the golf ball, but they do not compromise their posture or their balance. They're in good posture, they're in good balance, they simply stand close to the golf ball. Number two, they will have a relatively weak grip in this direction. That way the face is more open. And once that face is more open, they can afford to let their arm get more this direction, more internal and spread behind them over here, so their hands can get tighter and that face can square up. After they've gotten their face to square up, now they still shallow out and swing far enough from the inside, so they are in a position to rotate, because if they didn't, they'd come over the top. They will swing from the inside, and by getting their arms tight, they have the right distance from the ball, the face has gotten square, and now they can rotate really hard through the shot in this direction, and that's going to give them incredible face control, incredible path control, really good contact. It's going to make them hyper-accurate players, and that was set up because they had a weaker grip and they stood super close to the golf ball. So for most people, it's going to be a less powerful way to do it, unless you're somebody like Rory, you can punch your hands through last second. For most people, it'll be a less powerful way to do it, but it's an extremely accurate way to do it if you can have the right sequence of other movements in your swing.